your boss has no idea what they're doing, like not even a little bit. But because your boss is incompetent, they're making your life a nightmare. What are you gonna do about it? Well, that's exactly what we're talking about in today's video. Hello, my friends, and if you're new here, welcome. My name is Jennifer Brick, and I'm your career bestie. Around here, we talk about workplace obstacles, career success, toxic workplaces. If you're like, yes, I need more of that in my life, tap the subscription button and the notification bell. Also, I hang out on LinkedIn and Instagram pretty much every day, so if you want to go chill with me over there, I'll leave those links in the description. But enough about me. What are we going to do about your boss? If you are ready to find out how to deal with your boss who has no idea what they're doing, tap that like button and let's jump in. For those of you who hang around here often, you are going to know exactly what I'm going to say here. The first step in dealing with a boss that has no idea what they're doing is to have a little empathy for them. I know this is hard, but seriously though, think about a time that you felt over your head, whether it was when you had a level up in your career, you took a new job, transition roles, or you were just learning a new skill and you just had no idea what was happening. Well, that's your boss. Now, even if they're not a new manager, doesn't necessarily mean that they know what they're doing. They could be living in this state for quite some time, let me tell you. And we've talked about it here before, but new manager training is very lackluster, and in many cases, new managers don't get any leadership training at all. So they're really being thrown onto a bike with no training wheels when they've never ridden a bike before. So they might be wobbly getting by, but they probably aren't an ace out of the pocket. Is that saying right here? I think any time that we can come from a place of empathy and understanding for the situation that the other person is in and the feelings that they are experiencing in them, it better allows us in order to manage the situation and even manage your boss. But we're gonna come back to that one. Another element that can come into play here and just understand where our boss is coming from when they don't know what they're doing or what's going on is that they might not have been in the actual role that you're in. They might not have done the thing that you're trying to do. So in some cases, turning to a coworker and getting mentorship from someone that's senior on your team might be a better resource than going to your boss who just doesn't know what they're doing, because they've never done the job before. The weird thing happens at the leadership level where managers are really evaluated and really expected to lead people and lead strategy and things like that, which can actually take them out of the weeds. So they might not know how to work your CRM or how to place an order and things like that if it's not part of their day-to-day. So let's just start with having some understanding. Does this person have the enablement that they need in order to succeed and know what they're doing? Do they really need to know the thing that you're asking for help on? And once we've done that, we are going to move on to step 2 in dealing with your boss who doesn't know what they're doing, and that is to be proactive. Now, I want to know how many of you are here because your boss is a clueless boss who doesn't know what they're doing, and they're creating obstacles or barriers for you to do your job, such as you have an idea for an improvement in a process, but they're not letting you run with it. You have a product idea that would be absolutely perfect. They're not letting you run with it. Sometimes this incompetent boss who just doesn't know what they're doing can create a lot of barriers and resistance for us. And because they don't have the knowledge and the information that they need in order to make great decisions, when you come to them and ask for permission because they're scared, because they're stressed, because they're afraid you're gonna figure out that they have no idea what they're doing, they just say no to everything, or they just create a lot of barriers that get in your way. In cases like this, the solution is actually quite simple. Don't ask for permission, just go ahead. Now, of course, this you need to take into consideration where there's actual formal approvals needed and things like that. Like if you're spending budget, you probably need to have a sign off there. But in instances and cases where you don't really need your boss's input, but you're just looking to them for some guidance that you know you're not gonna get, just be proactive, action that idea, implement the adjustment that makes things more efficient, and then you can just let them know that you've made this change, why it's awesome, so that they know the contributions that you've made, and it also gives them the opportunity to have some knowledge there there without being an obstacle to that progress that you've made. And it also allows them to brag for you and maybe even for them to look good, which will boost their confidence, which gives them more space to do better at their job, quite honestly. Another way that you can be proactive with a boss who doesn't know what they're doing is to explain things to them. Now, I don't want you to get all mansplaining or femsplaining about things. That's not necessary. Let's not be the person who's condescending to our boss. Not going to go well for you. However, when you're presenting them something that you know that maybe their knowledge or experience is a little bit shaky on, you can say something like, you probably already know this, but, or I think that this bit of context would help you. And if there's information that you can communicate to your boss effectively to empower them to make the right decisions, give you sign off, make your life easier, go ahead and do that. And this brings me to my third strategy to deal with a boss who doesn't know what they're doing. And I already know that a lot of you are going to be sounding off in the comments about this one. If you're working with an incompetent boss or a boss that doesn't know what they're doing, give them positive reinforcement. Give their ego a little something to snack on. This doesn't mean that you're brown nosing. It does not mean that you are blowing smoke up their derriere. It does not mean any of those things that I know some of you are going to be all up in my business in the comments about. This is basic psychology. Now, you've probably heard about Pavlov and his dogs. So he trained his dogs that they got food whenever a bell rang, and then whenever the bell rang, they got food, and then they would salivate. And eventually you just had to ring the bell, and then they were just drooling all over the place, right? Well, that same positive reinforcement works for people too. Now, I'm not saying that you should be ringing bells when your boss does the things that you want them to do. But give them acknowledgement and give them guidance through the feedback and positive reinforcement that you're giving them about the things that they're doing right and the things that they're doing to help you. For example, in drawing from our last step, if you go to your boss because you need approval on something and they need to give you approval, the way that you can structure it is you can ask them for approval, tell them your reason why you think approval is a necessary and good idea. And when they give you that approval, say something along the lines of, I really think you made the right decision here, and I appreciate you listening to my input. This rewards them for listening to you and for signing off on the thing that you needed to sign off. And when we verbalize positive reinforcement, it makes it obvious to even the most oblivious. Now, I know that in some situations when you're dealing with an incompetent boss or the boss that has no idea what they're doing, they might be giving you negative feedback or bad performance reviews because they have no idea what they're doing. And in that case, you need to move into the next strategy to deal with your boss who has no idea what they're doing. And that is to evaluate the feedback that you're getting from this boss who doesn't know what they're doing. Look, not all feedback is created equally. And if your boss doesn't know what they're doing, they don't necessarily have enough information to give you accurate and valid feedback. It is completely fair for you to take that piece of feedback and do a validity check. Is it accurate? Is it applicable? And is it relevant? In some instances that I've heard from you guys and from clients that I've worked with, sometimes incompetent bosses really become insecure bosses. And when you're really talented, they might feel really threatened by you. And that can cause them to even lash out and give you bad performance reviews or give you negative feedback. And while that's totally not cool, that's not the focus of our video for today. But if you want that one, let me know in the comments. Now, if you are dealing with something like this, maintaining your confidence in yourself, your awesomeness, and making an unignorable impact that you don't need to rely on your boss that doesn't know what they're doing to pass along is so crucial. And this really starts with knowing your unique awesomeness quotient, your UAQ. If you don't know your UAQ yet, follow the link in the description to get your free UAQ starter kit. It can really be a lifesaver in these situations and maybe even an option to escape your incompetent and insecure boss. And that brings us into the last strategy to deal with a boss who doesn't know what they're doing, and that is to manage up. This is absolutely crucial in these situations. You really need to manage your manager and be educating them so they're making the right decisions, taking the right actions, and doing the right thing and maybe even leading you in the most productive way. And I know whenever I say managing up to someone, they get really nervous because it sounds so complicated, but I promise you, it's actually really simple. In fact, I want you to deep dive into this because I think it's really going to transform your relationship with your incompetent boss. So what I want you to do is go and watch this video right now where we deep dive into managing up. But before you go, if this helped you in preparing to deal with your boss who has no idea what they're doing, give it a thumbs up. It really helps my channel and it makes you my favorite career bestie. Who doesn't want that? As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.